Welcome, everybody. We are super excited for this month's lead. We've got two experienced principals, great friends, people who we've had a chance to work with in a lot of different capacities, even folks I've like gotten hurt doing things with, like physically. And so different stories of doing Tough Mudders with Jamie and working with Courtney for more than 20 years. So most of the time she just beat me up. But in any case, welcome to this month's lead. We're super excited to have Courtney DeMent and Jamie Toland. We're going to jump right in just a minute, but Dr. Dixon, anything you want to add?
No, there's definite some stories there, I'm sure, but I'm just happy Courtney's around you to keep you in your place. So
Well, this is true.
I promise I'm a really nice person.
This is true, just as true as well. So, but have the pleasure and privilege of calling them really good friends. And when Amy and I were thinking about the lineup for this year, these were two folks that we know are doing great work in their buildings, and they're going to showcase different things. So it gives us a chance to really hear some cool stories and experiences. And then we'll have an opportunity at the end to ask them any and all questions that you have. But if you'd like, how about Courtney, you want to just introduce yourself real quick and maybe a little bit of background?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you all. My name is Courtney DeMent. I am the principal at Downers Grove North High School. This is my fourth year in the role, and I came from District 88, where I worked at Addison Trail High School in a lot of different roles over the course of almost 20 years. And so I came from a building where I grew up. Basically, I like to say to people, and then went to Downers Grove North 4 years ago as the principal, and I'm really lucky to serve this wonderful community, and it's been really fun. So I'm actually at home this afternoon. I have three boys. One is in sixth grade, and my twins are in fourth grade. They've been bribed with soda pops and iPads. So, but just in case you see them popping into the background, that's what we do. We balance all of the things. So welcome everybody, and it's nice to see you.
Great. Thanks, Courtney. Jamie?
I'm Jamie Toland. I'm currently the principal at Rochester Intermediate School right outside of Springfield, Illinois. This is my third year in this role. I spent 6 years as assistant principal at the high school level, both here in Rochester and also in Riverton. I spent 20 years in the classroom prior to that. So I'm going into finishing up year 28, 29 in education. And this is my ninth year as a school administrator. I talked a little bit at a different one of these lead panels about the change it was for spending 25 years in a high school setting in various capacities, and then moving into the intermediate school. For those of you that don't know, my building is fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, which is unique in a lot of ways because we have 2/3 of our building is still basically contained elementary, fourth and fifth. And then our sixth grade is a introduction into junior high life, and they're housed upstairs. They use their lockers and switch classes, and they have subject specific teachers. So it's an interesting dynamic we deal with here. And, I've really enjoyed making the transition the past couple of years to work with kids at this age and their enthusiasm and school spirit and those kind of things. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we go through this discussion.
Awesome. Well, thanks to both of you for being on today, and we're going to jump right in because each of them has a couple different things that they're going to share in terms of what they're working on this year, and how they're going about it, and we'll sort of do that parallel. So at any point you want to ask any questions or throw anything in the chat, please don't hesitate to do that. But we're going to kind of jump it out there really quick, and maybe we can start with Courtney. You can tell us like what are some of the initiatives, or maybe one or two that you want to highlight today that you're focusing on this year.
Yeah, so our biggest focus at North High School this year is what we call our foundation of grading. And we are really honing in and focusing on grading practices. And it's been quite an interesting journey, I guess. And I started in the middle of COVID. And then we had a really huge schedule change after that. And so we've kind of settled into that schedule now and are really ready to talk about some of the important things that really our teachers, our students, our families are telling us that we could do to make their experiences a little bit better. And so our foundation of grading really stemmed from feedback from our staff. And we spent a lot of time, my ad team and our leadership team spent a lot of time really listening to what the issues that teachers were bringing to us and talking about. And that's kind of how it all started. And so last spring, we rolled it out to staff, and the biggest piece of this foundation of grading is that we are talking about at every single meeting that we have is how we are co-creating this together. And so one of the pieces that I continued to hear in the feedback sessions from staff was that they were continually surprised by the things that were happening and felt like the initiatives were happening to them instead of with them. And so we took a lot of time to really hear what people had to say, and used that feedback to decide kind of the pathway that we wanted to take. And so in every session that we have, we use our PD sessions, we use some Institute Day time, and we have a group called our Trojan Leadership Council that we use to get feedback in multiple places from multiple groups of people to make sure that they're included in the process. And we continue to update them at each of those various points throughout this semester and next semester to make sure that they know what's happening and how we've used that feedback. And every single time that we meet with people, we talk about, we will be using your feedback to make our decisions. And so we are currently in the middle of like a listening tour and going to every department to talk about reassessment specifically, because that's the hottest issue in our building and the one that has the most feelings for people. And so we know that it's also it can be very department specific. In a large high school such as ours, reassessment looks much different in a music class than it does a math class. And so we want to make sure that we're listening to the needs of each department as we consider what that foundation of grading will ultimately be. We've told people that we're going to come to a conclusion about this in the spring. And we're actually going to pilot some things on reassessment here starting second semester as part of our feedback process, so that those people who are piloting and talk to staff about what they're experiencing with reassessment. So that's just kind of a glimpse into the things that we're doing. And really our biggest initiative, and something that, if you go to people in my building, what are you working on? Foundation of grading. That's the answer. And we have been going through that really since last spring.
That's awesome. We'll dig into that a little bit more in just a minute, if that's okay. But that's a great piece. And I love the consistency of the common language, so they know if you ask anybody in the building, what are you working on? They all can repeat it. That's awesome. Great. Jamie, I know you're going to share a little bit different perspective on what you're focused on and working on this year.
Yeah, so years 1 through 8 in administration. Like I said, the first 6 I spent as an assistant principal. The last 2 leading my building with my own assistant principal. I'd always worked with veteran and experienced administrators that offered a whole array and variety of different experiences that they could bring as sort of give advice and walk through situations and talk through things. The last 2 years, coming to this building, my assistant principal had been here for several years himself, and he had the opportunity last spring to move to lead his own building in our same district. Through that process of finding a new assistant principal, we were able to hire a phenomenal person that came in for the first time, for me at least, working with someone that had absolutely no administrative experience at all. So navigating that, mentoring that person through all the stuff that comes along with it. We say about the principalship all the time, you don't really know how to do the job until you've done the job. I mean, you can have an idea, a concept in your head of what it's like to be a school administrator. I know sitting through interviews over the summer and listening to people's thoughts on what does a day in the life of an administrator look like. If you're the assistant principal at RIS, what do you think it's going to be? And some of the stuff that people would say when they would leave, I would look at the other people that on the interview panel and be like, can I have that job? It was like, just the perspective of, I'll kind of check my email and pop into classes, say hi to kids and walk around and open some milk cartons at lunch. While those things happen, it's the day-to-day grind of all the stuff we get hit with that people outside our doors don't even know about. And with all that being said, experiencing this with her and coaching her through the difficult moments, and using the experiences that I've had over the past 8 years has really been a good refresher for me about, what it's like for somebody to go through a lot of those experiences the first time. You come from a teaching background, and you come from, maybe an instructional coach background or a dean or something like that. And maybe you've not been in a situation where a parent cusses you out on the phone, or somebody threatens an attorney, or, all these kind of things. Or you think that you're going to leave at 4 or 4:30 every day, and sometimes it's 5, 6 o'clock, and that you're like you're sitting in your office and you realize that your lunch has been sitting on the microwave since 11 o'clock, and it's now 2:30. Just like that your day's really not your own, and just walking through with her those experiences and how to navigate that, trying to be protective of her, but at the same time, I need to sit back and allow her to have those experiences, because that's the only way. That's the only way she's going to learn, and she wants that experience. But we still have that commonality where we share an office through a set of doors, but also the shared leadership is so important. And what I've learned from being an AP for 6 years, what shared leadership is not, I'm going to share with you all the stuff I don't want to do and share with you all the parents I don't want to talk to. It's that we do this stuff together, and you go out and start working on it, and you put your own stamp on it. And if you get stuck, come talk to me and we'll work through it, and I'll give you some advice. And sometimes I need to step in and sort of coach, and sometimes I need to sit in with her while she's doing stuff and watch how she's doing and give her feedback after. But she knows that I'm there for either one of those kinds of things. So that's been a really good experience, being this basically in my 10th year, first decade of doing this job, of being able to take a look back at year one and what that looks like. Everyone uses the drinking through the fire hose analogy, and everything coming at you 1,000 miles an hour, and just reliving some of that with her. Because after you do this a while, yeah, we still deal with all this stuff, but you sort of get, I don't want to say jaded, but you get to the point where you've kind of seen and dealt with most of it. So you have sort of a reference of how to deal with things as they come up. Working with her, alongside her, to deal with these things as they happen, there's been a lot of value in that for me in my job, and also just being able to sort of mentor and coach the next generation of school leaders. She does a phenomenal job.
That is awesome. First of all, in the chat, I think we both put, a couple of us put, Courtney put in there too, like just simply speaking truth, right? Like this is the best. So when Amy and I were talking through this and you guys were responding about what you were going to talk about, this is like leadership 101 and the kitchen sink all together. Like you're just going to throw it all in there right now. And we're just going to get in, we're going to dig in really quick. You both kind of talk a little bit about this. Like what made you decide to focus on these? And Jamie, yours was a little bit out of necessity. You had a brand new AP, and Courtney, you may have had it, in terms of a district-wide initiative. So maybe we'd go back with Jamie and just kind of follow up, like how did you had a brand new AP, that selection process, and then and things like that. Did you have the opportunity to maybe oversee that, or was this person assigned and that kind of thing? And then how did you decide what you're going to focus on with that person?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I was lucky enough to be involved in the interview panel. We went through and brought in our first round interviews. It was me and our HR person from the district office. And we went to the superintendent with two candidates, and then he helped us facilitate the second round of interviews. We saw a whole array of people that were like the AP we ended up getting, who were coming out of leadership roles in their building, but not administrative roles. We had veterans of 10 plus years that had applied and interviewed. We had people that were actually still in the process of finishing their degrees, that were aspiring, that were wanting to come and sort of get started in a different role and then, sort of develop. So we saw all kinds of things. What you're looking for in this kind of a situation is the most diverse person that you can find in terms of experience, in my opinion. They've had a little taste of leadership throughout, by whether it's committees or whether it's, instructional coaching, or whether it's been an aspiring through IPA or any of those kind of things. They've been a part of cohorts. You want a little of that experience at least. And then, somebody that knows like data and background and knows how to do things with, all the different things that come along with the job that you don't think about. How do you build class schedules? How do you interdiscipline into Skyward? Those kind of things. So we're trying to find the most balanced person that we could. And that's sort of where we landed with my assistant principal that I have now. And we're lucky to get her, in my opinion. But the things on the flip side of this, not only for me, but the things that she brings in coming from a different district, and the new innovative ideas. We've changed our morning routine. We have a morning assembly now with our kids. She brought that in. Her background with goal setting, with student growth, and having our students be responsible for leadership and tracking their own stuff. She's bringing all those things in addition to learning how to do the AP side of the job as well. So there's just been a ton of value across the board for our building. As much as I got along with my other AP and I miss him dearly, I think just having that ability to sort of bring your own person in for the first time was a cool experience. And I think we definitely hit a home run on this time around.
Awesome. I'm going to dig back into one of those things in just a minute. But Courtney, how about yourself? You want to talk a little bit? What made you all decide? You mentioned this a little bit as you talked through it, but maybe you can go a little bit deeper in terms of like how you all decided that grading practices were going to be where you're going to jump in.
Sure. So before I came into the district, there had been kind of a district focus on what we call common experience. And it outlined some pieces that kind of revolve around grading, that kind of revolve around some course team decisions about grading and district decisions about grading. Course teams were allowed to have a lot of autonomy in that process and were able to decide a lot of things on their own. And just as we continue to evolve, those decisions were all right at the time and were all good at the time. And since then, we've realized that some of those decisions have put kids in kind of a tough spot. For example, a student of ours can go through 8 different classes during their day and have 8 different reassessment policies. And then, they're working through all of these different things, and it's becoming really hard for them to navigate. And then what they have to do is actually choose then between classes. Like, I'm actually going to study for this test because this other test is not going to allow me to have, because this one's not going to allow me to reassess. So I have to study for this one, but I'm going to just take the reassessment on this one. And so we're putting kids in these weird positions to make decisions when through the policies that we've created. The one thing that is really interesting to navigate through this is that teachers really told us that they want us to talk about grading policies, and they also want autonomy in their classes. And so balancing those things is probably the hardest thing in this process, because they want to be able to do things that they want to do, which is awesome. And they want us to talk about some of these grading policies, right? And so one of the things that we've made sure to say in every single session, and this is the one thing that we've learned we have to do every session that we have, we repeat all of the things that we know are important to people. It's repeat, repeat, repeat all the time. That we are not looking to make a blanket grading policy that every single person has to follow lockstep. It needs to be general enough that people can follow it and still make their own decisions. Yet we need to kind of hone in on a couple of pieces that we really need to tweak, as we learned from our common experience work. And so what made us decide to focus on this is really it's been all teacher feedback, that they wanted us to really dig into some of the policies that were created in our common because some of them just kind of aren't working as they were intended to. And that's okay. We evolve, we change, and we learn from the things that we put in place, right? And so this really has all come from our staff. Of course, there are always people who are not happy about us talking about it, because again, they're afraid we're going to take away their autonomy in the classroom to decide some of those things. But we just kind of have to keep working at it and balancing it. And it's why we continue just to go to departments and talk to them and keep on our message, on our points, and make sure we're repeating that for everybody, because then it starts to kind of sink in about what we're doing. We're not looking to take all of your autonomy away in the classroom. We're not doing that. But we do need to kind of focus on a couple of things to help our students navigate this school day a little bit better.
Courtney, one of the things, first of all, I admire both of you as leaders. I think you both do a fantastic job, and it's because of those components that you're talking about, like truly a listening tour, because you don't know what you need to change unless you're willing to listen. And Jamie, with reflecting on what it's like to be a brand new leader in a district and getting that feedback. But Courtney, I want to take this a little bit different direction. You said, you hear from the listening tour, so you do the right thing, you listen to your teachers, and they want to talk about grading practices, but yet the other hand, they don't want you to tell them how to run their classroom. And so as a building leader, where do you rely for your support in those moments when you're really struggling with that internal balance of trying to listen, but yet also needing to lead the building? And I think maybe I'm relating to this because I kind of had a similar meeting this morning where it's like, a group of people's wanting a certain thing, but yet they don't really want me to fix it. And so I want to know, where do you turn for support for yourself as a leader? Because I love the clear communication and the intentionality that you're reporting out. I think all of us as educators are fixers. So we want to get in and fix it. And so I love that you're taking the time to listen and communicate clearly and get feedback as you go. But where do you turn, both of you, where do you turn for support for yourself, or when you're unsure how much to push on a certain initiative and how much to sit back and gain input?
I'm laughing because yesterday I went into 3 of my AP's offices because I was just like, I need to and so my associate principals are really, really, I'm very, very thankful for them because they listen to me, they laugh with me, and they are able to give me just like relate to what I'm feeling. They're also really, really good gauges. Like I most of the time, I have a pretty good gut on how a gut response or a gut feeling on how that meeting went or on how something was received. And just over time, I think this is another piece that I've just kind of come to terms with. It takes time to get to know people, and it takes time to get to know how they're going to react to things. And so it's been I gut check a lot with my associate principals, like, hey, how did you think that went? Because I thought it went okay. Oh yeah. And then we talk about it and kind of process that. And then, on the days like yesterday when I needed to vent about something really silly that happened, they were there and to reassure me too, that like, I know I'm not totally crazy. Some days I'm crazy, but on this particular day I was not. And so it was helpful for them, for me to hear them kind of reassure me in that. But I think it's funny because most days I know that and can remember in the tough meetings that there's never going to be a moment where every single person is happy and or satisfied with what we're doing. I know that and I can kind of make peace with that, and know that who those people are and who I need to kind of make sure to go talk to. There are some days like yesterday where I was like, and that I have my team who's really great. And then I'm really, really lucky that I get to come home and deal with 3 wonderful, beautiful boys and my husband who are really supportive. And they distract me from all of the things at work because we're doing all of the 4th and 6th grade things. We're doing all the sports, we're doing the soccer, and we're doing the math homework and all of those things. And so it's a good distraction so that I can then make peace with the stupid things that have happened on that day and can come to work mostly with a fresh head. And this morning I called my superintendent and I was talking to him a little bit about what happened. And he was also very reassuring. He said, Courtney, this time you're not crazy. And I'm like, thank you. That's great to hear. I appreciate that. And so it's nice to have those people. I think the other person who is like my person is my counterpart at my other high school. I work in a 2 high school district, and her and I are like, she's such a wonderful friend and she is an amazing principal. And so she's got a lot of experience as a principal. And so I lean on her quite a bit. And we vent together, we help each other out. And it's just it's a wonderful relationship. And I'm really, really lucky to be able to work with her.
That's awesome. Jamie, I know that there's nothing better than bringing on new leaders because they bring energy and just a different lens and new ideas to the team. But I know it can also it can also feel exhausting because you feel the pressure of giving them the support they need and not just leaving them out there to struggle with all of these issues by themselves. So where do you turn to for your support to keep you motivated to keep doing this work each and every day.
Yeah, so we don't really ever have any problems at our school, so I mean it's pretty straightforward. It's so easy on a day-to-day. It's just mostly napping and snacks. But yeah, so I mean, to sort of echo one thing that Courtney said is especially like I tell people all the time, every single time I make a decision, somebody's mad. I mean, that's just a fact. And that I gave the analogy. I actually got a nice email from a parent last year of thanking us for what we do and keeping their kids safe and everything. And I said that means so much because our jobs are basically like Yelp when people only comment if something goes wrong. That's basically all the feedback you ever get. I'm very lucky. I have a pretty extensive leadership network, professional leadership, PLN, whatever you want to call it. I work with a group of superintendents and principals. We've done, like Dan kind of alluded to, we've done some Tough Mudder obstacle course races, and we've sort of through that process stayed in each other's lives. I've presented at IPA and some local conferences and stuff about it's called Outside the Office, and like having something to do and look forward to when you're not here. I support the St. Louis soccer team I have season tickets, so having that to look forward to during the season, you just having something on the weekend where you're looking forward to that. My daughter recently moved to Kansas City, so being able to go out and visit her, those kind of things. I was in a building leaders network, a little plug for that for you guys for IPA, but I recommend those cohorts because you get to know people. And even going back to my admin classes, the value in the admin class, yeah, you take school law, finance, and principalship and organizational dynamics. There's value in that. But sitting around talking to people from other districts and hearing their stories and sharing, man, this happened in my class today. Oh, I dealt with it too. That's always such a benefit with the IPA and being involved. But being in the cohort, I got to know other principals from Central Illinois, Chicago area, Southern Illinois, and I still keep in touch with PJ. And if things are real bad, I'll give him a call or a text, and he gets on the phone with me and helps me talk through whatever I'm dealing with. If it's big time stuff or it's just wearing me down, he still checks in with me. So he and I have remained close through the cohort, for a while too. And I know that I could always reach out to Amy or Dan as well. And just having that support system in your building is phenomenal. And in our district, the high school principal and I are best friends. We talk every day. That's very important. When it's the bigger stuff and you need someone outside perspective, my advice is to try to find those people that you can connect with. Like you said, it could be other buildings or other districts that are close, and build that up so you have that network. And then the last thing I would tell anybody is at 4 o'clock, shut your email off, go home, be with your family.
Jamie, you reminded me, I almost forgot. I'm a part of a principal collaborative, and that is, I call it my therapy group. And we meet once a month, and I'm so lucky to have those people because they experience just the same things that we're all experiencing, and that's super helpful. So thanks for reminding me about that.
And I also go to actual therapy, so that helps too. I recommend it to anybody.
I took some pleasure off of letting you know how Dan looked after your Tough Mudder when he, proceeds to go in for surgery. I think he may or may not have told a different story about how he got hurt. So now the truth is out.
No, that one I told the truth on. That one was clearly I decided to do the wall, and I pulled up on the rope and tore the pec muscle right off my chest, and they put it back, and it's stronger than ever, so it worked out well. But I will never do a Tough Mudder with Jamie Toland again. So I'll be there for the beverages after. They'll just do that. So that's usually, yeah.
Along that same vein, though, Dan,
Yep.
I want to ask them. So it's hard, right? And it's hard to sometimes know, is what I'm doing successful? So I'm going to go ahead and jump to
Mm-hmm. Yep.
how do you measure the success, or how do you at the end of the day, how do you drive home to those amazing kids that you have? And they are gorgeous, Courtney. They're very handsome boys. How do you drive away knowing whether or not you've been successful?
Some days I just know by the fact that that meeting went really well and someone stopped me in the hall and said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much," or again, you just get to know people and kind of how they react to things. Honestly, some days I walk away and it's like, oh, that was not good. And so I think this is probably the hardest part of, in particular, this initiative that is happening at the moment with our foundation of grading, because a lot of our staff, and they're not wrong, we are a very high performing school. And so the question is, well, why fix it if it doesn't look broken? And so it's sometimes more difficult to point to some of those traditional data pieces when we're looking at this. But I think my response to that is, and something Arwen and I talk about quite a bit, my counterpart, just because a lot of kids are getting A's, B's, and C's doesn't mean that there aren't kids who are not being successful. And we ultimately can always grow and always do something different and always think about and reflect on our practices. And so this one is tough, and it's one that we have to continually think about. But I also think about this in terms of our student and family feedback and their experiences. I think the biggest piece for me is right now we're in the middle of kind of planning this pilot. And I'm really looking forward to the people who participate in that being able to give feedback to their peers, because they're going to be doing it and working through it. And then they're going to have opportunities to talk about it and talk about what worked and what didn't. And so I think that's part of how we measure our success, that we're able to try a couple of things and then have teachers actually speak to that. Again, I'm the principal, but I'm not in the classroom and they have a different perspective. And so I think I'm excited about this opportunity that we've got to try to kind of try a couple different things in terms of reassessment specifically. Because I think it will help us not only measure what might be successful, but I think it will also in the long run help us transition fully as a school and as a staff to whatever it is that we decide.
Jamie, what's your take on that?
I think to your point about asking the question, how do you know when you get in the car to drive home if you've been successful? Courtney spoke to this too, but sometimes you don't. I mean, it's just a lot of times this is hard. This is hard what we do. There's a reason that not many people do it, and there's a reason that people that do it don't stick with it. It's tough, and it's harder now than it's ever been. And I know we've had countless talks throughout, the IPA and the associations about how to get people into administration and keep people that are in administration to keep wanting to come here and do this. But we get it from all angles sometimes, and if you don't find a way to shut it off and stay out of the social media chats and the emails at all hours of the night, then I mean it'll eat you up if you let it. I think just I can tell it's not a data thing, but just there's a change in the climate over the last couple of years. I'm not going to attribute that all to myself, but just the team that we've built here, really I feel like has this building going in the right direction. The leadership team, I completely revamped that from what it was, and just the fact that we have extended meetings that just go on without people like wanting to fill out a timesheet. They just want to sit and talk because they're invested in our kids and our school being the best it can be. And to see that growth and to have our school improvement time and our PD mostly led by teachers in our building and using the talent of my staff, where it's not just me. This is contrary to what I'm literally doing at the moment, but it's not just me droning on and on about myself and my own experiences. There's just been so much value in that, to get, we have an incredibly talented, we have a diverse staff. We used to say in our cohort, the room's the smartest person. So if we have issues to work through, getting the feedback from people on different areas and utilizing that and having that support, for their ideas and their initiatives, I think has been a ton of value. So that's where I see success. Things that we struggled with in year one, I feel that we're getting better at now in year three, and we just keep building on that and trying to keep bringing in the right people to do the right stuff in our building and our community.
It's great how you both described it, that each of the things you're working on is a work in progress. And sometimes that progress means that folks will challenge it, whether it be early on in both of your experiences as leaders. Bill kind of alluded to this in terms of like core beliefs and values. And how do you handle and balance staff? And I'll just stick with staff to start with, that kind of place a challenge on your core beliefs and values, especially through the lens of like talking about grading practices, but really they're talking about, core beliefs and values about learning and kids. And Jamie, for you, like leadership and core beliefs and values and what people make assumptions on for the roles. Like how do you handle that and keep the momentum moving forward for the rest of the organization? I don't know if Courtney, maybe you want to start.
Sure. Let's see. How do I handle that? Some days are better than others. I think honestly, it's I have a really supportive team of associate principals, and they help me through that. I think I think it's knowing the people who are going to pose those barriers for me, or try to. And honestly, and this is part of it is coming to a brand new district where I didn't know anyone. That was challenging in itself. And I thought I was really good at forming relationships with people, and realized like, oh yeah, that takes time too. And so I think it's just over time getting to know those people. And I know who those people are for the most part, who are really passionate about something else, or are going to challenge me, and what we're doing. And it's really anticipating that and just trying to be better at anticipating what they're going to say. I had a meeting earlier this week where I was anticipating this department to have a couple of things, and I was pretty much on point with that. Just again, because I've gotten to know who those people are and what they believe, and the things that they're passionate about. But I think at the end of the day, the one thing that helps me to get through that is remembering that at the end of the day, all of those teachers care about kids. They really do. As much as they're trying to put up a barrier for us, they do really care about kids, and they are good teachers. They're great teachers. And so it's just trying to remember that and find the things that they're really good at and capitalizing on that to help us all move forward. And then I have wine. So there's that.
Yeah, I was
True.
going to say my therapy is usually conducted at Binny's, and wine does help. So there you go. Good call. Jamie, how about yourself?
I think from a culture standpoint, when you're talking about like staff that, kind of struggle with some of the initiatives and stuff, I think just firing people on the spot that disagree with you is definitely a way to sort of level out the playing field.
That's what they teach you in class, isn't it?
You only want, yeah. And it's
Leadership 101.
Yeah.
There it is, folks.
Exactly.
There's your leadership
Done.
101 lesson. They don't agree with you, just fire them. All right, move
tenure
on.
law. It's so easy. No, I think some of the stuff I've learned, one of my areas of focus with students, parents, and staff especially is being able to have the hard conversations. It's been a goal of mine. It's been written in my, as something I want to focus on, and how to do that and when to do that and the ways to go about it. And I think, just the more you can be upfront with people and just be direct with them and explain your expectations, the more that you can address things as they happen and not put it off till later. I took several phone calls today. I certainly didn't want to pick up the phone when I saw who was calling, but I just picked it up, got out some pen and paper, and just took it and wrote it down and listened to their interpretation of how I do my job, and all the interesting ways they described it. I just went on to the next person. So, I mean, just facing things with your staff head on, and being able to listen to them when they have concerns. It's not always yes, but at least I'm going to hear you out. And I think there's a ton of value in that staff, and I think you'll all agree, staff generally just want to be heard. They don't have to be agreed with. They don't have to be told yes to everything they come up with, but they want to feel like you at least value what they're saying, whether you agree with it or not. And that's just, from a evaluative standpoint, that's a respect and rapport type of a situation also. But that's what I've learned over my time in terms of dealing with a variety of staff and opinion, and people are, just human beings. And they, like you said, ultimately, if you have to remind yourself everybody cares about these kids. They want to do a good job, whether they're able to or not, they want to do a good job. And that, your priority is to treat everybody fairly. You don't have to treat them the same, but you want to treat everybody fairly.
That is such great advice. On these webinars, usually we get a good balanced blend of mentors who are supporting new leaders, and then new leaders or just leaders across the state. So I guess a question for each of you is if you had suggestions for how mentors can help support leaders through this process, or what suggestions you'd have for leaders first time going through. I think there was one or two in the chat that indicated they're a brand new leader in the building, and what kind of words of advice or wisdom do you have for them?
Again, one of the things that underestimated was the time that it would take to build relationships in a brand new building. So I think just making sure that that was coupled with mask wearing at the time when I came in, and it was coupled with a brand new schedule, which was like mind blowing for people. And so it's really just taking the time to build those relationships and just keep working at it. And be patient with yourself. I think being patient with yourself, sticking to who you are. I think I'm really, really lucky to work in an area where I get to see the wonderful work of principals who have been doing this for a long time. But it's also really important to just be who you are, and be honest with people about who you are, and just try to get to know people as much as you can, so that they get to know who you are and what you stand for. I think that's been what's been the most effective, I think.
It's awesome. Good. Jamie, any thoughts?
Yeah. You have to get out of your office. You have to get out of your building. You have to get out of your district. I mean, you're not going to grow. You're not going to learn things if you just stay in a silo. I wasn't really an option for me in my first couple of years. I worked with a principal that wanted me in the building to kind of handle the day-to-day stuff. We had high volume discipline and that kind of stuff. My second job, I was encouraged to sort of get out and get involved with IPA, and I got to go to a fall leadership conference for the first time. I never even knew that was an option. So when you can grow through different professional development opportunities, last summer I went to the national conference in Nashville, the joint conference, and it was phenomenal. I think that I spend so much time with IPA stuff, which is great, but then you're always hearing about Illinois stuff and Illinois issues and Illinois stuff. But to sit down with someone from Hawaii and someone from Delaware and someone from Alabama and have conversations about things that they're dealing with and be like, oh yeah, you guys have a bus driver shortage too, and you're having transportation issues, and oh, your kids are doing these kind of things, so are ours, and building that view of things that we get so kind of honed in on everything, that this is only happening to me, it's only happening to my staff, it's only happening with my kids in my building. But there's so much more universality to what we do, and there's such a big support and people that want to help you, that when you get involved in other organizations and you start going to different conferences that have value, you really can grow. I would recommend that anybody gets to the point where you try to present at conferences, that kind of push you outside your comfort zone and helps you become expert in different areas. Those would be the main things I would want to impose upon a new principal. There's just a lot of value in getting out and hearing from other people and learning new ideas.
Both incredible pieces of advice. Thank you. Those are we often talk about, I think the IPA has a graphic. It talks about like the change process and the influence and how long it takes, that realistically it's 3 to 5 years to just even start to really get into the core components of things. So, understanding that the relationships are the priority, and as leaders, we're the ones who drive the climate and the culture. We don't drive the learning. The classroom teachers do that. I think we both kind of talked about that the magic happens in the classroom. We say that, the teachers are the ones who make that happen. And you all have been fantastic at sharing your examples of what that looks like throughout supporting people and facilitating it, while sometimes behind the scenes doing all the things that no one else knows about, to make sure the building continues to move, the building in the district continues to move forward. So thanks so much for sharing your stories. You've got some incredible examples. I know we could just kind of keep going all night, but we wanted to see if folks that are on the Zoom have questions for you guys specifically, or just want to offer any other thoughts or suggestions based on things that came through.
I also love what Sue put in the chat, so I would love for her to unmute and just get through that really quick, because I think that's important, right? We all have to have those tools that we just automatically have ingrained in our brain that we go to in those tough situations.
Hey, thanks, Amy. Jim Burgett, some of you may know Jim. He's been around forever and a day. He was a superintendent for many years. It became just a really good close friend of mine. He did some work for IPA. He retired from working a few years ago. But I picked up so many tips from him. And one of them that was really important to me was this whole acronym. I'm going to hold it up because this is literally what I created and taped by my phone, this acronym of CALM. Because when I was in that superintendent's role, and I shared it with, principals as well, when you're in those roles and people get to you on the phone, I love what Jamie said. It's usually not Yelp. It's usually, I have a problem, and it's the most important problem you're going to deal with. And I'm the most important person you're going to deal with. And they want to get it off their chest, whatever it is. Or people will drop in the office to say, hey, can I talk with you about something? And Courtney, what you said about knowing your staff, you know who those hot button people are that are going to pop in, and then all of a sudden they're going to lay a load of treasures on you. And so I really followed this advice, and it was to sort of deflect or get the person a little bit down off of their, offensive, and just say, thank you for coming in, bringing this to my attention. You have to say it, with sincerity, of course. And, then it's really asking questions. So you let them talk a little bit, and then you ask them clarifying questions, which shows them that you understand and that you're listening and that you repeat. It's just that parroting that we've all learned, to repeat. So, they know you've understood it. Often what I found is just by asking questions, even if they're upset, by asking them questions to give them time to share what their concerns are. It didn't always, fix the problem, but I did gain a reputation for people knowing that I was going to listen and listen carefully, and I would act fairly. And it takes time to really build that rapport. But as I did that with staff members, I did that with community members, and just wanted people to know I wasn't rushing them off of their problem. So hopefully that's what you were looking for, Amy.
It is perfect. I think we always have to have those tools, those go-tos that we can go to in those moments. Anyone else have any questions?
There were some really cool comments and thoughts in the chat there, which was great. And for those like Lorraine and everybody who, jumping in and doing great work, thank you for all the support for leaders. And so it's great to be able to hear direct stories from Courtney and Jamie. And I don't know, Sue, if I'm going to forget you talking about a load and then a long pause of treasure. So I'm going to use that in some upcoming work, I think. So that was outstanding. So tremendous. Maybe it's time for some raffles that we can.
It is, and I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to use a tool I used last year.
Oh, all right. Sounds good.
So
all yours.
Pick our winners.
All right.
You all see the
look
wheel,
at that.
the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, look at that.
All right, so I'm going to click and we're going to find 3 winners and hopefully must be present to win. So if the spinner stops on your name, please unmute so your picture pops up and we know you're there and say, yay, I'm here, Sue. All right, our first winner is Valerie Brown.
Outstanding. Awesome.
Yay.
I'm here. Thank you.
All right, Val, longtime mentor and coach for IPA. Thank you so much. And let's
you so
go
much.
to our next winner. Oh gosh, Valerie, you can't win 12. Oh, Megan Hunter. There we go.
There you go.
I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, great, Megan. I guess all right, let's see. Maybe I should click it and it'll stop. Otherwise, we're going to have Megan and Val again. Oh, here we go. David, is David still with us?
And David is still with us. Thank you.
All right. So we have our
Outstanding.
three $25 Amazon winners. I will reach out to you tomorrow with details. Thanks for joining us. And again, if you signed in, I will send information out tomorrow about how to sign out if you would like PD credits. So with that, I want to thank Dan and Amy, and of course our guests who have been with us today, just really sharing some truth. And, I think sometimes this is just really awesome to hear, because just as you talked about needing to have that person that you can lean into, or knowing that other people, like Jamie talked about, being part of the cohorts, knowing that there are other people going through the same thing as you are, I think this brings that home. And, it's our 4th year of these lead webinars, and they are the brainchild of Dan and Amy, and really appreciate all the work that they put into to help our leaders here in Illinois to really feel supported and to learn and grow. So thanks, Dan and Amy, and I'll let you wrap it up.
Well, thanks, Sue, and thanks for always the support of it. This year we kind of decided to do a whole variety of different lead sessions and at different times. So today we were at 4:00, but coming back after the first of the year, January 16th, we're going to do a noon session. We're just going to see how that works for people's calendars, if they can carve out some time. And it's going to be Chris Edwards, current IPA president, and Kevin Shelton, past IPA president. Both are in their final year. Both are retiring this year. So you want to talk about like experience and words of wisdom and all the fun that'll come with that. And if you've ever met both of them, they're great. They come from almost opposite ends of the state, in terms of it as well. So their experiences are going to be fantastic. And in February, we bring Jason Stipp and Dr. Albert Brass. Albert is principal at Kankakee High School, and Jason is at Wabansie Valley. And so that's going to be a lot of fun to have that conversation as well. And then we've got a couple more lead sessions to close out the year. The second to last one, if I'm not looking at my calendar, but Amy, isn't it the one we're going to have students on?
Sure it is.
We're gonna have students on lead. Anytime we do professional development at Willowbrook, we have kids with us. And so I think hearing directly from the students and what they look for in leaders is really, really important. And so we're going to put together a panel of kiddos to do that. We won't script them. We're just going to let them go cold, which would be great. And then the last one's going to be all assistant principals. Last one of the year, we're going to have the APs on and tell us what it's really like to work with all of us. So, those are going to be some fun sessions as well. But Amy, any final thoughts or anyone else? Amy, any final thoughts?
No, just thanks for spending time with us and hanging there. I mean, winter, especially for you high school people, it's the hard run of lots of late night basketball games and supervision. So not that doesn't happen year round, but I just feel like it's a whole different heaviness when it comes around the holidays and all of the supervision that has to occur there. So hang in there, and we're always here if you need us. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Cool.
And I'd like to bring happy holidays. Thanksgiving is just around the corner, 2 weeks. Can't believe it. And then it'll be on the downhill slide to the holiday break and the new year.
Mhm.
So hang in there.
Right.
IPA appreciates you. They appreciate everything that you're doing for kids. And I don't want that to sound insincere in any way. We can't help kids without you. And so thank you for every bit of hard conversation and every bit of happiness and basketball game points that you can get.
Yep. Good. Well, Jamie and Courtney, thanks again. Jamie, see you soon around, but definitely not on the course, but that's all right. But Courtney, I'll see you in the morning at the collaborative. So fun fact, Courtney runs the collaborative now. She does a tremendous job. She's the facilitator for our high school principal collaborative in our region. And it's awesome. So she does a great job.
Well, you're sweet. We're talking about grading tomorrow, so get ready.
Oh, bring it. I'm not coming.
It's selfishly.
Yeah. Outstanding. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a fantastic night. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in 2025.